Hello, everyone, and welcome. Or perhaps you're thinking, hello, can I even say hello properly in English without my heart pounding in my chest? If that sounds familiar, if you've ever felt that knot in your stomach when you want to speak English, or if your mind just goes completely blank when someone asks you a question, then you are in exactly the right place. Many of us dream of speaking English fluently, confidently, and clearly. We spend hours learning grammar rules, memorizing vocabulary lists, watching movies, and listening to music. And yet, when the moment comes to actually speak, silence. Or maybe a jumble of words that doesn't quite sound like what we intended. It's frustrating, isn't it? You know the words, you understand what's being said, but getting your own thoughts out clearly and without fear feels like climbing a mountain. But what if I told you that mountain is not as steep as it seems? What if the key to unlocking your confident English voice isn't about learning thousands more words or mastering every complex grammar rule first? What if it's about changing your approach, practicing smarter, and building a new relationship with the English language and with yourself? Today, we're not just going to talk about why it's hard. We're going to dive deep into how you can start practicing and speaking English with more confidence, using simple, clear language, starting right now. Forget perfection for a moment. We're aiming for connection, for communication, for the joy of expressing yourself. This journey is about progress, not perfection. So take a deep breath, relax, and let's explore how you can transform from a hesitant learner into a more confident English speaker. We have a lot to cover, and this is just the beginning of our adventure together. The very first thing we need to address, even before we talk about what to practice, is your mindset. Yes, your mindset. Think about it. If you believe speaking English is terrifying, if you're constantly worried about making mistakes, your brain will literally freeze up. This isn't about your English level, it's about fear. So, our first powerful step is to embrace mistakes as stepping stones. Let me say that again. Embrace mistakes. They are not failures. They are proof that you are trying. Every single person learning a new language makes mistakes. Native English speakers make mistakes in English. It's natural. Imagine a baby learning to walk. Do they get it right the first time? Of course not. They stumble, they fall, they get up, they try again. Each fall is a lesson. Each attempt brings them closer. Your English journey is exactly the same. When you make a mistake, don't beat yourself up. Don't think, oh, I'm so bad at English. Instead, try to think, okay, that wasn't quite right. What can I learn from this? Maybe you used the wrong word or the wrong tense. That's okay. It's an opportunity. The more you speak, the more you'll notice these little things, and the more you'll naturally start to correct them. But if you're too scared to even open your mouth because you might make a mistake, you'll never get that valuable feedback, not even from yourself. Host. The second part of this mindset shift is to focus on communication, not perfection. What is the primary goal of language? It's to share ideas, to connect with others, to get your message across. If you say, I go shop yesterday, instead of, I went to the shop yesterday, will the other person understand you? Most likely, yes. The grammar wasn't perfect, but the communication happened. Of course, we want to improve our grammar and sound more natural over time. But in the beginning, and even as you become more advanced, prioritize getting your message out. If you're Constantly stopping yourself mid-sentence, trying to find the absolute perfect word or the perfect grammatical structure, you'll sound hesitant and lose your flow. And that actually makes it harder for the listener, not easier. Aim for clarity and being understood. Perfection can wait. In fact, striving for perfection too early can actively stop you from ever getting to confident communication. Visual. Simple animation showing a thought bubble with a complex sentence. Then it simplifies to a clear, direct sentence conveying the same core message. Now, let's talk about the practice part. How do we actually do this? Many learners think practice means sitting down with a textbook or doing grammar exercises. Those things have their place, but for speaking confidence, we need to speak. And the good news is, you don't always need a partner. One of the most powerful and often overlooked techniques is to start thinking in English. This might sound strange, but it's incredibly effective. Your native language is your default operating system. When you want to speak English, you might be thinking in your native language, translating in your head, and then trying to speak. That's a lot of mental work. It's slow, and it's where many errors and hesitations creep in. So, how do you start thinking in English? Begin with simple, everyday thoughts. When you wake up, okay, I need to get up. It's 7 a.m. I'm a bit tired. What will I have for breakfast? While you're making coffee, where is the sugar? Here it is. This coffee smells good. While you're commuting, that car is red. There are many people on the bus today. I hope I get a seat. It will feel weird at first. You might only manage a few words or short phrases. That's perfectly fine. The goal is to gradually make English the language of your internal monologue for certain parts of your day. Don't translate. Just try to access the English words directly. If you don't know a word, don't stop. You can describe it to yourself. It's that thing you use to cut paper, scissors, or make a mental note to look it up later. This simple habit builds pathways in your brain that make speaking more automatic and less like a translation exercise. Building. On thinking in English, our next technique is to talk to yourself in English, out loud. Yes, you might feel a bit silly at first, but who cares? No one is listening. This is your private practice ground. Narrate your actions. Okay, now I am washing the dishes. I need more soap. This plate is very dirty. Describe what you see. The sky is blue today. There's a small bird on that tree. It's singing. Summarize something you read or watched. I just watched a video about cats. It said cats sleep a lot. That's true for my cat. Why is this so effective? First, it gets your mouth, tongue, and vocal cords used to forming English sounds and words. Speaking is a physical act. Second, it helps you practice forming sentences in real time without the pressure of a listener. Third, you start to hear your own English. This is crucial. And that leads us to another powerful solo practice method. Record yourself speaking English. This one can be a little intimidating for some. Hearing your own voice, especially in a foreign language, can make you cringe a bit. But trust me, it's gold. Take your phone, open the voice recorder app, and just talk. You can read a short passage from a book, answer a simple question like, "What did you do today?" Or, "What are your plans for the weekend?" Or even just do the self-talk narration we just discussed. Then, listen back. This is where the magic happens. You'll notice things you wouldn't catch while you're speaking. Maybe you mispronounce a common word. Maybe you hesitate a lot. Maybe your sentences are very short. Don't judge. Just observe. What's one small thing you could try to improve next time? Maybe speak a little slower to reduce hesitation. Maybe focus on a particular sound. This isn't about criticizing yourself. It's about becoming your own coach. You'll start to identify patterns and areas for improvement in a very concrete way. Do this regularly, even just 5 minutes a day. And you'll see noticeable progress in your clarity and flow. Another fantastic technique, especially for pronunciation and rhythm, is shadowing. What is shadowing? It's when you listen to a native English speaker and try to mimic them in real time or with a tiny delay, like an echo. You're not just repeating after them, you're trying to copy their intonation, the rise and fall of the voice, their rhythm, their stress patterns on words, and even their pauses. How to do it? Find a short audio or video clip of a native speaker talking clearly and at a moderate pace. A podcast, a TED Talk, a news report, or even a scene from a TV show can work. Start with something just 1 to 2 minutes long. Listen to it once or twice to get the gist, then play it again and try to speak along with the speaker. Don't worry if you can't keep up perfectly or catch every word. Focus on the sounds and the melody of the language. You can use a transcript if it helps, especially at first. Read along while trying to match the speaker's voice. Do this repeatedly with the same short clip. You'll be amazed at how much more natural you start to sound. Pick 1 or 2 strategies that resonate with you right now and start there. Perhaps the idea of talking to yourself in English while you do your chores feels achievable. Great, begin with that. Or maybe you're curious about shadowing. Find a short audio clip today and give it a try for just 5 minutes. The key is to begin. Don't overwhelm yourself by trying to do everything perfectly from day one. Small, consistent steps are what build lasting habits and real confidence. Now, all the solo practice techniques we've discussed are incredibly valuable for building your foundational skills and your inner comfort with English. They help you get the words out, practice sentence structures, and improve your pronunciation without any external pressure. But language, at its heart, is about connection. It's about interacting with other people. So, while solo practice is essential, the next vital step is to find opportunities to actually use your English with others. This is often where the biggest wave of fear can hit. Speaking to yourself is one thing. Speaking to another human being who might judge you or not understand you is another level. But remember our earlier discussion about mindset. Embrace mistakes. Focus on communication. So, how can you find people to practice with, especially if you don't live in an English-speaking country or don't have native speakers around you? 1 excellent way is through language exchange partners. There are many websites and apps dedicated to connecting language learners. You find someone who is a native English speaker wanting to learn your native language. Then you can arrange to talk. Maybe half an hour in English, half an hour in their target language, your native language. This is a fantastic, often free way to practice. The beauty of a language exchange is that your partner understands the challenge of learning a language. They are in the same boat. This usually creates a very supportive and patient environment. You're both learners. You're both likely to make mistakes. And you can help each other. When looking for a language exchange partner, be clear about your goals. Are you looking for casual conversation? Do you want to discuss specific topics? Finding someone with similar interests can also make conversations more engaging. Don't be afraid to try a few different partners until you find someone you click with. And remember, it's okay if the first few conversations feel a bit awkward. That's normal. Keep showing up, keep trying. Another option is to join online, English speaking clubs or groups. Many platforms host groups where learners from around the world gather to practice speaking English. These might be general conversation groups, or they might be focused on specific topics like movies, books, or current events. Often, these groups are moderated by a teacher or an advanced speaker, which can be helpful. The advantage here is that you get to speak with multiple people, often with different accents, which is great for your listening comprehension too. And again, everyone there shares the same goal: to improve their English. It's a community of learners. If your budget allows, you might consider working with an online English tutor. A good tutor can provide personalized feedback, help you with specific areas you're struggling with, and create a structured learning plan. They can also provide consistent conversation practice in a supportive environment. Many tutors specialize in conversational English and confidence building. Look for someone patient, encouraging, and experienced with learners at your level. Even 1 or 2 sessions a week can make a significant difference. And don't forget people in your existing network. Do you have friends, family members, or colleagues who also speak English or are learning English? Even if they are not native speakers, practicing with them can be incredibly beneficial. You might feel more comfortable and less self-conscious speaking with someone you already know. You can agree to have English-only conversations at certain times or when you meet up. The key is to create opportunities, no matter how small. Now, when you start having these conversations, whether with a language partner, in a group, or with a friend, here are a few tips to make them more effective and less stressful. Prepare a little, but don't overscript. Before a conversation, you might think about a few topics you could discuss, or learn a few new words or phrases related to those topics. This can help you feel more prepared. However, avoid writing out full sentences and trying to memorize them. The goal is spontaneous conversation, not a recital. Having a few key points or questions in mind is good. Trying to stick to a rigid script is not. Ask questions. A great way to keep a conversation flowing and to take some pressure off yourself is to ask questions. People generally like talking about themselves. Asking questions shows you're interested. It gives you a chance to listen, which is also practice. And it gives you a moment to think while the other person is speaking. Simple questions like, "How was your day? What do you think about? Can you tell me more about?" Work well. Listen actively. Conversation is a two-way street. When the other person is speaking, really listen. Don't just wait for your turn to talk. Pay attention to their vocabulary, their pronunciation, the way they structure their sentences. You can learn a lot just by listening carefully. Active listening also means showing you're engaged. Nodding, saying, "Uh-huh, I see," or "That's interesting." Don't be afraid of silence. Sometimes there will be pauses in a conversation. That's perfectly normal, even in your native language. Don't feel you have to fill every single silence. It's okay to take a moment to think. Rushing to speak just to avoid silence often leads to more mistakes or less clear communication. If you don't understand, ask for clarification. This is so important. If someone says something you don't understand, it's much better to ask them to repeat it or explain it than to just nod and pretend you understood. You can say things like, "Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you please say that again?" What does word mean? Most people will be happy to help. Asking for clarification shows you are genuinely trying to communicate. Use communication strategies. What if you can't think of a specific word in English? Don't let that stop you. Use strategies like circumlocution. Describe the word. For example, if you can't remember scissors, you could say, the thing you use to cut paper. Using a simpler word, if you can't think of enormous, use very big, using gestures or drawing. Sometimes nonverbal cues can help get your message across. The goal is to keep communicating, even if your vocabulary isn't perfect. Beyond direct conversation practice, the media you consume can also be a powerful tool for improving your speaking. We often think of watching movies or listening to podcasts as passive activities for listening comprehension, but you can make them active speaking practice too. Consider using movies and TV shows actively, instead of just watching with subtitles. In your own language, try these techniques. Watch with English subtitles. This helps you connect the spoken words with the written words, improving your understanding of pronunciation and how words are used in context. Repeat short phrases or sentences. Hear a line you like or one that seems useful. Pause the video and repeat it out loud. Try to mimic the actor's intonation and emotion. This is a bit like shadowing, but with specific lines. Summarize scenes or episodes. After watching a scene or a short segment, pause and try to summarize what happened in your own words out loud. This practices recall, sentence construction, and vocabulary. You can start simple. The man went to the shop. He bought some bread. As you get better, you can add more detail and complexity. Talk to the characters. Pause the show and respond to what a character said, or ask them a question. Why did you do that? I agree with you. It might feel silly, but it's active engagement. Similarly, music and podcasts can be your allies. With songs, singing along is a fantastic way to improve your pronunciation, rhythm, and flow. Lyrics often use common idioms and expressions. Try to understand the meaning of the lyrics, not just sing the sounds. With podcasts, especially those designed for English learners or those with clear speakers, you can shadow the speaker. As we discussed before, summarize segments, listen to a few minutes, then pause and explain the main points out loud. Discuss the topic with yourself. If the podcast is about a certain topic, like technology or travel, pause and share your own thoughts or experiences on that topic out loud. The podcast talked about the benefits of AI. I think AI is useful because thus, key with using media is to move from being a passive consumer to an active participant. Don't just let the English wash over you. Interact with it. Engage with it. Make it a springboard for your own speaking. Another really useful habit is to learn phrases, not just single words. We touched on this briefly when talking about core vocabulary, but it deserves more emphasis. When you learn a new word, try to learn it in a common phrase or a typical sentence. For example, instead of just learning the word appointment, learn make an appointment, have an appointment, cancel an appointment. Why is this so powerful? Because it helps you use words correctly and naturally. You don't have to stop and think about which verb goes with appointment or which preposition to use. You've learned the whole chunk. This makes your speech more fluent and reduces hesitation. You can find these chunks in dictionaries, in conversations, in books, and in movies. Start a notebook or a digital file where you collect useful phrases. Remember, this journey is yours, and you have the power to shape it. You decide which techniques to try, how often to practice, and what goals to set. This empowerment itself is a confidence booster. Now, even with all the best preparation and solo practice, there will be moments when you're in a real conversation and that old familiar feeling of anxiety starts to creep in. Your heart might beat faster, your mind might go blank, or you might suddenly feel very self-conscious about your accent or your grammar. This is perfectly normal. The key is not to eliminate this feeling entirely. That might be impossible, but to learn how to manage it in the moment so it doesn't stop you from communicating. So, what can you do when you feel that wave of panic or uncertainty during a conversation? First, take a slow, quiet breath. This sounds incredibly simple, but it works. When we're anxious, our breathing becomes shallow and rapid. Consciously slowing your breath sends a signal to your nervous system to calm down. You don't need to make a big show of it. Just a quiet, unnoticeable inhale and exhale can help you recenter. Second, deliberately slow down your speaking pace. When we're nervous, we often try to rush our words out, which can lead to more mistakes and make us harder to understand. Give yourself permission to speak more slowly than you think you need to. This gives your brain more time to find the words and construct sentences. It also makes you sound more thoughtful and in control, which can, in turn, make you feel more confident. Third, shift your focus from yourself to the other person and the message. Often, anxiety comes from being too focused on our own performance. Am I making mistakes? Do I sound stupid? What do they think of my English? Try to consciously redirect your attention to understanding what the other person is saying and to genuinely conveying your own message. When you're truly engaged in the act of communication, there's less mental space for self-criticism. Listen with genuine interest. Focus on making your point clearly, even if simply. Fourth, have a few rescue phrases ready. These are simple phrases you can use if you get stuck, forget a word, or need a moment to think. For example, just a moment. Let me think. How can I say this? What's the word for? Could you give me a second? Using one of these phrases is much better than just freezing or struggling silently. It shows the other person you're still engaged, and it buys you a little time. Fifth, give yourself permission to pause. You don't need to fill every microsecond with sound. It's okay to pause briefly to gather your thoughts. Native speakers do this all the time. A short, natural pause is much better than filling the space with ums and ahs, although those are also natural to some extent. Just don't let the fear of silence push you into speaking too quickly or without thinking. Remember, the other person in the conversation is usually more interested in what you have to say than in judging your English. Most people are patient and understanding, especially if they know you're learning. Beyond these in-the-moment strategies, let's talk about something that significantly impacts how confident you appear and, importantly, how confident you feel. Your body language and nonverbal communication. It's not just about the words you speak, it's about the whole package you present. Confident body language can actually make you feel more confident internally. It's a two-way street. Think about your posture. When you stand or sit tall, with your shoulders relaxed but back, you naturally project more confidence than if you're slumped or hunched over. Try it now. Sit up straight. Doesn't it make a small difference in how you feel? This open posture also helps with your breathing, which, as we know, is important for calm speaking. Then there's eye contact. In many cultures, making reasonable eye contact shows that you're engaged, sincere, and confident. You don't need to stare intensely, which can be uncomfortable for everyone. But aim to look at the person you're speaking to regularly, especially when they are speaking and when you are making an important point. If you're constantly looking down or away, it can be interpreted as shyness, lack of confidence, or even disinterest. If you're speaking to a group, try to make eye contact with different people in the group. A smile can also go a long way. A genuine, friendly smile can make you appear more approachable and can put both you and the other person at ease. It signals warmth and openness. Of course, you don't need to smile constantly if it's not appropriate for the topic, but when you greet someone or during light parts of a conversation, a smile is a powerful tool. Consider your gestures. Using natural hand gestures while you speak can make you appear more expressive and engaged. They can also help to emphasize your points. Don't overdo it with wild or distracting movements, but allowing your hands to move naturally as you talk is generally a good thing. If you tend to fidget when you're nervous, like playing with a pen or your hair, try to be mindful of this and keep your hands calmly in your lap or by your sides when you're not gesturing. Even the space you occupy can convey confidence. Try not to shrink into yourself. Take up a reasonable amount of space. This doesn't mean being aggressive or overly expansive, but simply being present and comfortable in your physical self. Practicing these nonverbal cues, even when you're talking to yourself in English or recording yourself, can help them become more natural. Watch speakers you admire. How do they use their body language? You don't need to copy them exactly, but you can get ideas for what confident communication looks like. Now, to keep all this practice and learning on track over the long term, it's incredibly helpful to set clear and realistic goals. Just saying, "I want to speak English confidently" is a good dream, but it's too vague. It doesn't give you a clear path. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound or SMART goals are much more effective. What does this mean for your English speaking? Instead of, "I want to be more confident," a smarter goal might be, "This week I will practice speaking out loud for 10 minutes every day using the self-talk technique." Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. By the end of this month, I will find one language exchange partner and have at least 2 30-minute conversations. In my next conversation, I will try to use 3 new phrases I learned this week. I will record myself speaking for 5 minutes twice this week and listen back for one specific pronunciation point to improve. Break down your big ambition into smaller, manageable steps. When you set small, achievable goals, you create opportunities for success. Each time you achieve a small goal, it gives you a sense of accomplishment and boosts your motivation and confidence. This creates a positive cycle. When setting goals, make sure they are realistic for your current level and your lifestyle. If you set goals that are too ambitious, you might get discouraged if you can't meet them. It's better to start small and build momentum. You can always adjust your goals and make them more challenging as you progress. Keep track of your goals and your progress. You could use a notebook, a digital document, or an app. Write down your goals and then note when you've achieved them. Looking back at how far you've come can be a great motivator, especially on days when you feel like you're not improving. think about what aspect of confident speaking you want to focus on next. Is it fluency, speaking more smoothly? Is it accuracy, using correct grammar? Is it vocabulary, using a wider range of words? Or is it simply participating more in conversations? Your goals can reflect these specific areas. For example, if you want to improve fluency, a goal might be to speak for 2 minutes on a familiar topic without pausing for more than 3 seconds. If it's vocabulary, your goal might be to learn and actively use 5 new idioms related to a specific topic each week. This process of setting and achieving small goals not only improves your English skills directly, but also trains your brain to associate English practice with positive feelings of accomplishment. It transforms the potentially daunting task of learning English into a series of achievable challenges. This structured approach can be particularly helpful if you sometimes feel overwhelmed or unsure where to focus your efforts. It provides direction and a clear sense of purpose to your daily practice. And remember, it's okay if you don't meet every single goal exactly as planned. Life happens. The important thing is to review, adjust if necessary, and keep moving forward. The consistency we talked about earlier is supported by this goal-setting process. It helps you show up even when you don't feel like it, because you have a clear, small task you've set for yourself. Each step, no matter how small, it seems at the time, contributes to the larger picture of you becoming a more confident and clear English speaker. Each step, no matter how small it seems at the time, contributes to the larger picture of you becoming a more confident and clear English speaker. It's about building momentum, one small success at a time. Let's now consider the richness of the English language itself and how understanding some of its nuances can help you speak more clearly and confidently with simple words. We've emphasized using simple vocabulary, and that's crucial. But even simple words can be used powerfully and effectively. One aspect is understanding collocations. Collocations are words that frequently go together. For example, we say, make a mistake, not do a mistake. We say, heavy rain, not strong rain. We take a photo, not make a photo. Learning common collocations will make your English sound much more natural, even if you're using basic vocabulary. When you learn a new word, pay attention to the other words it's often paired with. Many dictionaries for learners highlight collocations. Actively collecting and practicing these word partnerships will make your sentence construction smoother and more automatic. You won't have to pause as much to think about which words fit together. They will start to come to you more naturally. This significantly boosts fluency and reduces the mental load of speaking. Another area is understanding the appropriate register for different situations. Register refers to the level of formality in your language. You wouldn't speak to your boss in the same way you speak to your best friend. You wouldn't use the same language in a formal presentation as you would in a casual chat. Even with simple words, you can adjust your register. For example, instead of, "Wanna get some food?" Very informal. You might say to a colleague, "Would you like to get some lunch?" More formal. Instead of, "Gimme that thing?" Very informal. You might say, "Could you please pass me that?" More polite and formal. Being aware of register helps. You communicate appropriately in different social and professional contexts. It shows respect and understanding of social cues. This doesn't necessarily mean using more complex vocabulary, but rather choosing your simple words and sentence structures carefully. Listening to how native speakers adapt their language in different situations is a great way to learn about register. Pay attention to greetings, requests, and how people address each other. Let's also talk about the power of pauses and intonation. We briefly touched on pauses when managing anxiety, but they are also a key feature of natural, clear speech. Strategic. Pauses can emphasize a point, give your listener time to process information, and make your speech more engaging. Don't be afraid to pause briefly before an important word or at the end of a thought. It's much better than filling every gap with or Intonation is the music of the language, the rise and fall of your voice. It conveys meaning and emotion, sometimes even more than the words themselves. For example, a rising intonation at the end of a sentence usually indicates a question. Are you coming? A falling intonation often indicates a statement. I am coming. The way you stress certain words in a sentence can also change the meaning or emphasis. I didn't say he stole the money. Someone else did. I didn't say he stole the money. I implied it or wrote it. I didn't say he stole the money. He borrowed it or lost it. I didn't say he stole the money. He stole something else. While mastering native-like intonation can be a long-term goal, becoming aware of basic intonation patterns for statements, questions, and expressing surprise or enthusiasm can make your English much clearer and more expressive. Shadowing native speakers, as we discussed, is excellent practice for this. You can also find many online resources that explain and demonstrate English intonation patterns. Another practical tip for speaking clearly is to enunciate your words. This means pronouncing your words distinctly, especially the beginnings and endings of words. Sometimes, when we speak quickly or are nervous, we might mumble or not fully form sounds, making it difficult for others to understand us. Practice speaking slowly and deliberately, paying attention to each syllable. This is particularly important for sounds that might not exist in your native language or that you find challenging. Recording yourself and listening back can help you identify if you need to work on enunciation. Clear enunciation, even with a non-native accent, significantly improves intelligibility. And while we're focused on simple words, don't forget the importance of linking words and phrases, also known as transition words or connectors. These are the words and phrases that help connect your ideas smoothly and show the relationship between them. They act like signposts for your listener. Examples include for adding information and also, furthermore, moreover, in addition, contrast, but however, although on the other hand, for cause and effect. So, therefore, because, as a result, consequently for sequencing, first, second, next, then finally, after that. For examples. For example, for instance, such as using these. Simple connectors can make your speech much more coherent and easier to follow. Even short, simple sentences become more powerful when they are logically connected. Practice incorporating these into your speaking. You could, for instance, take two simple ideas and try to connect them using different linking words to see how the relationship changes. It was raining. I went for a walk. It was raining, but I went for a walk. Or, it was raining, so I decided not to go for a walk. One very common fear among learners is making grammar mistakes. We've said to focus on communication over perfection, and that's true. However, as you progress, you'll naturally want to improve your grammatical accuracy. The key here is not to get bogged down in memorizing every single grammar rule. Instead, focus on the most common structures and the mistakes that actually hinder communication. For example, subject-verb agreement, he go instead of he goes, or incorrect use of past tense. I eat pizza yesterday instead of I ate pizza yesterday can sometimes cause confusion or at least make your English sound less polished. Identify a few common grammatical errors you tend to make. You can do this by listening to your recordings, getting feedback from a language partner or tutor, or noticing patterns in your own speech. Then, focus on consciously correcting just those one or two patterns for a while. Don't try to fix everything at once. For instance, if you often forget the S for third-person singular verbs, he, she, it, make a special effort to listen for it and use it correctly in your practice. Once that becomes more automatic, you can move on to another common error. This targeted approach is much more effective than trying to be a grammar expert overnight. And remember, even native speakers make grammar mistakes in casual conversation. To support all of this, cultivate a love for the language itself. When you're genuinely interested in English, its sounds, its words, its culture, learning becomes less of a chore and more of an enjoyable exploration. Find aspects of English that fascinate you. It could be an author you love, a type of music, a podcast series, or even just the way certain phrases sound. When you find enjoyment in the process, you're more likely to stay motivated and engaged. This intrinsic motivation is far more powerful and sustainable than any external pressure. And as you engage more with English, you'll inevitably encounter cultural nuances. Language is deeply intertwined with culture. Understanding some cultural context can help you interpret meanings more accurately and communicate more appropriately. For example, directness in communication varies across cultures. Some cultures value very direct speech, while others prefer more indirect communication. Politeness strategies also differ. Being aware of these things can help you avoid misunderstandings and build better rapport with English speakers from various backgrounds. This doesn't mean you need to become an expert in Anglophone cultures, but a general awareness and sensitivity can be very helpful. Reading, watching diverse media, and talking to people from different English-speaking backgrounds can broaden your understanding. Finally, never underestimate the power of review and repetition. Learning new words, phrases, grammar points, or pronunciation tips is one thing. Actually internalizing them so you can use them spontaneously in speech requires repeated exposure and practice. Don't just learn something once and expect to remember it forever. Schedule regular review sessions. Go back over your notes, the phrases you've collected, the feedback you've received. Try to use newly learned items in your speaking practice multiple times over several days or weeks. Spaced repetition systems, SRS, often found in flashcard apps, can be very effective for memorizing vocabulary and phrases because they schedule reviews at optimal intervals. The more you actively retrieve and use new information, the stronger the memory trace becomes, and the more readily available that information will be when you need it in a real conversation. This consistent reinforcement is what moves knowledge from your passive understanding to your active, confident speaking ability. This commitment to revisiting and reusing what you've learned is a cornerstone of effective language acquisition. This commitment to revisiting and reusing what you've learned is a cornerstone of effective language acquisition, transforming fleeting knowledge into solid, usable skills. Let's delve deeper into something that often holds learners back: the fear of not being understood, or the fear of not understanding others. These are two sides of the same coin, and both can significantly impact your confidence. First, the fear of not being understood. You might worry that your accent is too strong, your grammar is incorrect, or you won't find the right words, leading to the other person not getting your message. We've already discussed strategies like speaking slowly, enunciating clearly, and using simple language. But what else can you do? One powerful technique is to learn to paraphrase yourself. If you say something and you see a confused look on the listener's face, or you just have a feeling it wasn't clear, don't just stop or repeat the exact same unclear sentence. Try saying it in a different way. For example, if you said, "The vehicular conveyance was impeded by the congestion, and it didn't land," you could paraphrase with, "The car was stuck in traffic," or, "To put it another way, there was a big traffic jam, so the car couldn't move fast." Being able to express the same idea using different and often simpler words is a very valuable skill. Practice this even in your solo speaking exercises. Take a sentence you've constructed and try to say it in 2 or 3 different ways. Another strategy is to check for understanding proactively, especially when conveying important information. You can use simple phrases like, "Does that make sense? Am I being clear? Do you know what I mean? Are you with me so far?" This isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of a good communicator who wants to ensure their message is received. It gives the listener an easy opportunity to ask for clarification if needed without feeling awkward. Now, for the fear of not understanding others. This can be particularly acute when listening to fast native speakers, unfamiliar accents, or discussions on topics you're not familiar with. The most important thing is to not panic when you don't understand everything. It's very rare, even for advanced learners, to understand 100% of everything they hear, especially in rapid, informal conversation. Native speakers sometimes mishear or misunderstand each other too. Focus on getting the main idea. What is the gist of what the person is saying? Even if you miss some words or details, can you still follow the overall conversation? Often, you can. When you genuinely don't understand something crucial, don't be afraid to ask for clarification. Politely. We mentioned this before, but it bears repeating because it's so vital. People are usually happy to help. You can say, "Sorry, could you repeat that, please? I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last part. Could you speak a little more slowly, please? What does word phrase mean? So, if I understand correctly, you're saying that? Then paraphrase what you think they said." This last one is excellent. Because it shows you're trying and gives them a chance to confirm or correct your understanding, to improve your listening comprehension, which directly impacts your confidence in understanding, expose yourself to a variety of English accents and speaking styles. The English language is spoken with a beautiful diversity of accents. If you only ever listen to one type of accent, e.g., standard American English from newsreaders, you might struggle when you encounter someone with a strong Scottish, Australian, Indian, or regional British accent. Seek out diverse listening materials, podcasts, YouTube channels, movies, and TV shows featuring speakers from different parts of the English-speaking world. Initially, it might be challenging, but your ear will gradually adapt. Using subtitles, first in your language, then in English, can help bridge the gap. Also, practice active listening in low-pressure situations. When you're watching a video or listening to a podcast for practice, don't just let it play in the background. Really focus. Try to predict what the speaker might say next. Mentally summarize what they've just said. If there's a transcript, read along. The more you train your ear to pick up sounds, words, and phrases in a relaxed setting, the better you'll be able to cope in a real-time conversation. Let's consider another aspect: dealing with difficult conversation partners. Sometimes, despite your best efforts, you might encounter someone who is impatient, critical, or simply not a good communicator themselves. This can be very discouraging. First, remember that their behavior is usually a reflection of them, not of your English ability. If someone is speaking too fast and seems unwilling to slow down despite your polite requests, you might need to gently disengage or simply accept that you won't understand everything in that particular interaction. If someone constantly corrects your every minor mistake in an unhelpful way, it can be very demotivating. A good language partner or tutor will offer constructive feedback, but constant unsolicited correction in a casual conversation is often counterproductive. You might need to politely indicate that you're focusing on fluency at the moment, or simply seek out more supportive practice partners. Don't let one or two negative experiences derail your confidence. There are many kind, patient, and encouraging people out there to practice with. Focus on finding them. Building on this, it's important to create a supportive learning environment for yourself. This includes the people you choose to practice with, the resources you use, and even the way you talk to yourself about your learning journey. Surround yourself with positivity. Follow encouraging English teachers online. Join supportive learner communities. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small. If a particular method or resource is making you feel anxious or inadequate, it's okay to switch to something else. Learning English should be challenging, yes, but it shouldn't consistently make you feel bad about yourself. Find tools and communities that uplift you and make you feel capable. Another key element in confident speaking is developing conversational agility. This means being able to navigate different topics, transition smoothly, and keep the conversation flowing, even if it veers into unfamiliar territory. How can you develop this? Read and listen widely in English. The more you expose yourself to different topics, the more background knowledge and vocabulary you'll have. You don't need to be an expert on everything, but having a general awareness of current events, common hobbies, or different cultural aspects can make you a more versatile conversationalist. Practice small talk. Small talk, casual conversation about everyday topics like weather, hobbies, weekend plans, is a very important social skill. It helps to build rapport and can lead to more in-depth conversations. Practice initiating and responding to small talk. You can find lists of common small talk questions and practice answering them. Learn phrases for changing the topic politely. Sometimes you might want to steer the conversation in a different direction. Phrases like, speaking of related topic, that reminds me, or on a different note, can be useful. Practice expressing opinions politely. Being able to share your thoughts and opinions is a key part of engaging in conversations. Learn phrases for agreeing, disagreeing politely. I see your point, but I have a slightly different perspective. And expressing uncertainty. I'm not sure, but I think, and related to this, don't be afraid to be yourself in English. Sometimes learners feel they have to adopt a different persona when speaking a foreign language. While you might adapt your communication style slightly, your personality, your humor, your interests, these are all still you. As your English improves, try to let more of your true self shine through. This authenticity will make your interactions more genuine and enjoyable, both for you and for the people you talk to. When you're comfortable being yourself, you'll naturally feel more confident. Consider also the role of interests and passions. Learning to talk about things you genuinely care about can be a huge motivator and confidence booster. If you love cooking, learn the English vocabulary for ingredients, techniques, and dishes. Then, try to talk about your favorite recipes or a recent cooking experience. If you're passionate about a particular sport, learn how to discuss the teams, the players, and recent games. When you're talking about something you know well and feel enthusiastic about, the words often flow more easily, and your natural excitement can overshadow some of your linguistic insecurities. It makes practice feel less like practice and more like sharing something you love. This also means you can tailor your learning materials to your interests. If you find grammar books boring, but you love reading fantasy novels, then read fantasy novels in English. If you dislike news reports but enjoy documentaries about nature, watch those. When the content is engaging for you, you're more likely to persist and absorb the language more effectively. This makes the entire process more sustainable and enjoyable, which are crucial ingredients for long-term success and confidence. This personalized approach ensures that you're not just learning generic English, but an English that is relevant and meaningful to your life. This personalized approach ensures that you're not just learning generic English, but an English that is relevant and meaningful to your life, making the entire journey feel more purposeful. Let's now explore the idea of finding your English voice. This isn't just about pronunciation or grammar. It's about developing a style of speaking English that feels authentic and comfortable for you. As you listen to various native speakers and advanced learners, you'll notice a wide range of speaking styles. Some people speak quickly and energetically. Others are more measured and calm. Some use a lot of slang and informal language. Others are more formal and precise. There's no single correct way to sound. Your English voice will be a unique blend of your personality, your native language influences, which can add a beautiful character to your English and the English you've learned. Don't try to perfectly imitate one specific person unless it's for a short shadowing exercise. Instead, take inspiration from various speakers whose style you admire. What do you like about how they communicate? Is it their clarity, their humor, their storytelling ability? As you practice, experiment a little. Try different ways of expressing yourself. Over time, you'll settle into a way of speaking English that feels natural and effective for you. This sense of authenticity is a powerful component of confidence. When you feel like you're being yourself, you're less likely to be self-conscious. Another important aspect to consider is handling feedback gracefully. Whether it's from a tutor, a language exchange partner, or even an unintentional correction from a friend, receiving feedback is a crucial part of the learning process. Sometimes feedback can be hard to hear, especially if you're feeling sensitive about your English. Try to view feedback as a gift. It's information that can help you improve. Listen actively to the feedback without immediately becoming defensive. Ask clarifying questions if you don't understand the feedback. Could you give me an example of that? Thank the person for their input, even if it stings a little. Thanks. I appreciate you pointing that out. Decide what to do with the feedback. Not all feedback is equally useful or accurate. You are the ultimate judge of what to incorporate into your practice. Focus on patterns of feedback rather than isolated comments. If multiple people point out the same issue, it's likely something worth working on. Don't let negative feedback crush your confidence. Remember all the progress you've already made. One piece of criticism doesn't define your ability. Use it as a tool for growth, not as a reason to give up. Developing a resilient attitude towards feedback will serve you well, not just in language, learning, but in many areas of life. Let's also talk about the concept of fluency versus accuracy in more detail. We've touched upon it, but it's a balance that learners often struggle with. Fluency is about speaking smoothly and continuously, without too many unnatural pauses or hesitations. It's about keeping the conversation flowing. Accuracy is about using correct grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. In the early stages of learning, it's often beneficial to prioritize fluency. Getting your ideas out, even with some mistakes, helps build confidence and makes communication happen. If you focus too much on being perfectly accurate from the very beginning, you might become hesitant and slow, which can actually hinder communication. As you become more confident and your basic fluency improves, you can then start to pay more attention to accuracy. This doesn't mean fluency becomes unimportant. It means you're working on both aspects. Think of it like this. First, learn to ride the bicycle and keep it moving. Fluency. Then, you can start to work on refining your technique, like pedaling more efficiently or steering more precisely. Accuracy. Most effective communication involves a good balance of both. A very fluent speaker who makes many significant errors might still be difficult to understand or might not be taken seriously in certain contexts. A very accurate speaker who hesitates constantly and speaks very slowly might struggle to hold a listener's attention. Your personal goals will also influence where you place your emphasis. If your main goal is to travel and have basic conversations, fluency with good enough accuracy might be your target. If you need English for academic or professional purposes, a higher level of accuracy will likely be more important, alongside fluency, to work on both. For fluency, practice speaking for extended periods without stopping, even if it's just talking to yourself. Use communication strategies to get around unknown words and focus on expressing your ideas. Timed speaking exercises can be helpful. For accuracy, record yourself and analyze your mistakes. Get feedback from others. Focus on 1 or 2 specific grammar points at a time and do targeted exercises. One practical way to integrate this is to have different types of speaking practice. Sometimes, just have a free-flowing conversation where your main goal is to communicate and keep it going, fluency focus. Other times, you might do a more structured practice where you consciously try to use specific grammar or vocabulary correctly, accuracy focus. And how about dealing with mental blocks or brain freeze? This is when your mind just goes completely blank and you can't think of any words, even simple ones. It's a common and frustrating experience. When this happens, don't panic. Panicking makes it worse. Take a breath. Yes, again. It's that useful. Use a filler phrase to buy yourself a few seconds. Let me see. Well, that's an interesting question. Try to rephrase your thought. Sometimes approaching the idea from a different angle can unlock the words. If it's a specific word you can't find, describe it. It's that thing you use for if you're really stuck. It's okay to admit it. I'm sorry, I've lost my train of thought. Or, the word has just slipped my mind. Then, you can try to move the conversation on or ask the other person a question. Mental blocks often happen when we're tired, stressed, or feeling under pressure. Regular practice, good preparation, if it's a specific speaking task, And the anxiety management techniques we discussed can help reduce their frequency. Also, consider the physical aspect of speaking. Vocal warm-ups can be beneficial, especially if you're going to be speaking English for an extended period, or if you feel your mouth and tongue aren't warmed up for English sounds. These don't need to be elaborate. Simple exercises like gently stretching your jaw, doing tongue twisters, slowly at first, then faster. Humming. Practicing specific vowel and consonant sounds that are challenging for you. Just a few minutes of vocal warm-ups can make your speech feel more fluid and your pronunciation clearer. Many actors and public speakers do this as a standard part of their preparation. Another powerful long-term strategy is to build a rich input diet. Input refers to all the English you read and listen to. The quality and quantity of your input significantly affect your output, your speaking and writing. Read extensively. Books, articles, blogs, news, whatever interests you. Reading exposes you to a wide range of vocabulary, sentence structures, and ways of expressing ideas. Listen actively and widely. Podcasts, audiobooks, music, conversations, lectures. Pay attention not just to the words, but to how things are said, the intonation, rhythm, and emotion. The more high-quality English you absorb, the more resources your brain has to draw upon when you speak. It's like stocking your mental pantry with ingredients. When it's time to cook, speak. You have more options available. Don't see reading and listening as separate from speaking practice. They are deeply interconnected. The phrases and structures you encounter in your input will gradually find their way into your active vocabulary and speech patterns. And as you continue on this journey, remember the importance of celebrating your milestones. Did you have your first 5-minute conversation entirely in English? Celebrate it. Did you understand a movie without subtitles for the first time? Acknowledge that achievement. Did you use a new complex sentence structure correctly? Give yourself a pat on the back. Learning. A language is a long process, and it's easy to get focused on how much further you have to go. Taking time to recognize and appreciate how far you've come is essential for maintaining motivation and a positive attitude. It reinforces the idea that your efforts are paying off. Keep a success journal where you note these achievements, big or small. When you're feeling discouraged, looking back at this journal can provide a much-needed boost. This habit of acknowledging progress is key to sustaining effort over the long haul. Turning what could be a daunting task into a rewarding journey of continuous growth. Let's now think about the practical application of English in specific, everyday situations, and how practicing for these can build both skill and confidence. Often, the fear of speaking is heightened when we face unfamiliar scenarios. By anticipating and rehearsing, we can reduce this anxiety. Consider making phone calls in English. For many learners, phone calls are particularly challenging because you don't have the visual cues of face-to-face conversation, like facial expressions or gestures. The sound quality might not always be perfect either. How to prepare for phone calls. Know your purpose. Before you call, be clear about why you are calling and what information you need to get or give. You can even jot down a few key points or questions. Practice common phone phrases. There are standard phrases for starting a call. Hello, this is your name calling from your company place. Could I speak to person's name, please? Asking for someone. May I speak to? Leaving a message. Could I leave a message? And ending a call. Thank you for your help. Goodbye. Practice these until they feel comfortable. Anticipate what the other person might say. Think about the likely responses or questions you might hear. If you're nervous, do a dry run. Practice the conversation out loud by yourself or with a friend. During the call, speak clearly and a little more slowly than you might in person. Enunciate well. Don't be afraid to ask for repetition. I'm sorry, the line is a bit bad. Could you say that again? Or, could you spell that for me, please? If you need to take down names or information. Starting with simpler phone calls, like ordering a pizza or making a simple inquiry, can build your confidence for more complex ones. Another common scenario is participating in meetings or group discussions in English, whether for work or study. This can be intimidating because there are multiple speakers. The conversation can move quickly, and you might feel pressured to contribute intelligently. Strategies for meetings. Prepare in advance. If there's an agenda, review it. Think about any points you might want to make or questions you might want to ask related to the topics. If you need to present something, practice it thoroughly. Listen actively. Pay close attention to what others are saying. This will help you follow the discussion and identify opportunities to contribute. Start with small contributions. You don't have to make a long, complex speech. You can start by agreeing with someone. I agree with person's name on that point. Asking a clarifying question. Could you elaborate on? Or adding a brief comment. Use phrases for interrupting politely, if culturally appropriate and necessary. Excuse me, if I could just jump in for a moment? Or, may I add something? Here, learn phrases for expressing opinions, agreeing, and disagreeing respectfully. In my opinion, I see your point, however. That's a valid point. And I'd also like to add, don't worry about having a perfect accent or grammar. Focus on contributing your ideas clearly. Many international meetings have participants with diverse accents. If you're leading the meeting, use clear, simple language and ensure everyone has a chance to speak. How about giving presentations or public speaking in English? This is a major source of anxiety for many, even in their native language. Tips for presentations. Know your material inside out. The more comfortable you are with your content, the less you'll worry about the language. Structure your presentation clearly. Have a clear introduction body and conclusion. Use signposting language to guide your audience. First, I'll talk about, then I'll move on to, finally, use visuals effectively. Slides with key points, images, or charts can support your message and give the audience something to focus on. Don't put too much text on your slides. Practice, practice, practice. Rehearse your presentation multiple times out loud. Practice in front of a mirror. Record yourself, or present to a friend or colleague for feedback. Time yourself to ensure you fit within any allocated time. Speak slowly and clearly. Pause between points. Make eye contact with your audience. Anticipate questions and prepare brief answers for them. It's okay to be nervous. Most people are. Use techniques like deep breathing before you start. Focus on delivering value to your audience. Even if your English isn't perfect, a well-prepared, clearly delivered presentation can be very effective. Consider also social situations, like parties or networking events. These can be challenging because of background noise, multiple conversations happening at once, and the need for spontaneous small talk. Strategies for social events. Prepare a few simple conversation starters. How do you know the host? What do you do? Are you enjoying the event? Be a good listener. Show genuine interest in what others are saying. Ask follow-up questions. Join group conversations by listening first, then finding a natural point to add a comment or ask a question related to what's being discussed. Don't feel you have to talk constantly. It's okay to just listen for a while. Have an exit strategy if you want to politely leave a conversation. It was nice talking to you. I'm going to get a drink, mingle a bit more. Focus on making 1 or 2 good connections rather than trying to talk to everyone. The more you put yourself in these situations, even if they feel uncomfortable at first, the more accustomed you'll become to navigating them. To effectively practice for these specific situations, you can use role-playing, find a language partner, tutor, or friend, and act out these scenarios. One person can be the caller, the other the receptionist. One can be the presenter, the other an audience member asking questions. One can be the interviewer, the other the interviewee. Role-playing allows you to practice the specific language and skills needed for that situation in a safe environment. You can get feedback, try different approaches, and build confidence before you face the real thing. You can even role-play by yourself, taking on both roles. Another important skill that underpins confident speaking in all situations is storytelling. Humans are wired for stories. Being able to tell a simple story, whether it's about your weekend, a funny thing that happened to you, or an experience related to a work project, makes you a more engaging communicator. Practice telling short stories in English. Focus on a clear beginning, middle, and end, using simple past tense correctly if you're talking about past events, using descriptive words, adjectives, and adverbs to make your story more vivid, using connecting words like then, so, because, suddenly, to link events, varying your intonation to convey emotion. You can start by retelling simple stories you've read or heard, then move on to your own personal anecdotes. Being able to share a brief, well-told story is a fantastic way to connect with people. And as you engage in all these varied speaking practices, don't forget the value of keeping a language learning journal. This isn't just for tracking goals or successes, but also for reflection. After a challenging conversation or a successful presentation, take a few minutes to write down what went well, what was difficult, what new words or phrases did you learn or use, what would you do differently next time. This reflective practice helps you learn from your experiences, identify patterns in your challenges, and consciously work on improving specific areas. It also provides a record of your learning journey, which can be very insightful to look back on. You might be surprised at how much progress you've made when you reread entries from months earlier. Finally, understand that confidence is not a permanent state. Everyone, even the most eloquent native speakers, has moments of doubt or feels less confident in certain situations. Confidence ebbs and flows. The goal is not to achieve a state of constant, unwavering confidence, but to build a resilient baseline of self-belief in your ability to communicate in English, and to have the tools and strategies to manage those moments when your confidence dips. It's about knowing that even if you stumble, you can pick yourself up and keep going. It's about trusting in your ability to learn, adapt, and improve over time. This realistic perspective can actually make you more confident, as it removes the pressure of having to be perfect or fearless all the time. It's about progress, persistence, and the quiet satisfaction of gradually finding your voice in a new language. It's about progress, persistence, and the quiet satisfaction of gradually finding your voice in a new language. Understanding that each interaction, each attempt, is a valuable part of that unfolding process. Let's consider the long-term perspective. Maintaining and continuously improving your English speaking skills. Once you reach a level of confidence and clarity you're happy with, the journey isn't over. Language skills, like any other skill, can fade if not used and nurtured. So, how do you ensure your hard-earned confidence and abilities remain strong and continue to grow? The key is to make English an integral part of your life. Don't let it become something you used to do. Find ways to keep English active in your daily or weekly routine, even if your initial intensive learning phase is over. Continue to consume English media regularly. Keep watching those movies, listening to those podcasts, reading those books, or articles in English that you enjoy. This passive exposure keeps the language fresh in your mind and continues to supply you with new vocabulary and expressions. Seek out regular speaking opportunities. If you have language exchange partners you enjoy talking to, try to maintain those connections even if less frequently. Join a conversation club that meets occasionally. If you use English at work, that's a built-in opportunity. The important thing is not to let long periods go by without actively speaking. Set new, smaller learning goals. Perhaps you want to understand a specific type of humor in English, or learn more about a particular genre of literature, or master the vocabulary for a new hobby you've taken up. Having small, ongoing learning projects can keep things interesting and your skills sharp. Think about using English for your hobbies and interests. This is a fantastic way to integrate the language naturally. If you like cooking, watch English language, cooking shows, or follow recipes in English. If you enjoy gaming, play games in English, or join online gaming communities where English is spoken. If you're into fitness, follow English-speaking fitness instructors online or read fitness articles in English. If you love art or history, watch documentaries or take online courses on these subjects in English. When you're using English to do something you're already passionate about, it doesn't feel like study. It feels like engaging with your hobby. This is one of the most sustainable ways to maintain your skills. Consider teaching or mentoring others if your level allows. Explaining English concepts to someone who is at an earlier stage of learning can be an incredibly effective way to solidify your own understanding. When you have to break down grammar rules or explain vocabulary in simple terms, it forces you to think more deeply about the language. It can also be very rewarding and boost your own confidence as you see how much you've learned. Stay curious. The English language is vast and constantly evolving. New words are coined, new slang emerges, and cultural references change. Maintain a curious mindset. When you hear a new word or phrase, look it up. If you encounter a grammatical structure you're unsure about, investigate it. This ongoing curiosity will keep your learning alive and prevent your skills from stagnating. Travel, if possible and desired, to English-speaking countries or regions can provide an immersive experience that significantly boosts your confidence and practical speaking skills. Being in an environment where English is the primary language forces you to use it constantly in real-life situations, from ordering food to asking for directions to having deeper conversations. Don't underestimate the power of regularly revisiting the fundamentals. Even advanced speakers can benefit from occasionally reviewing basic grammar or pronunciation points. Sometimes, Bad habits can creep in over time, or we might forget the nuances of certain rules. A quick refresher can help keep your foundational skills strong. Challenge yourself periodically. If you feel like your English has plateaued, look for ways to step outside your comfort zone. This could mean trying to speak about a more complex or abstract topic than you usually do, joining a debate club or a public speaking group like Toastmasters in English, taking an advanced English course focused on a specific skill like academic, writing, or business English, setting a goal to read a challenging piece of literature in English. These challenges can push your skills to a new level and reignite your motivation. Remember that language learning is a lifelong journey. There's always more to learn, more to discover. Embrace this. Don't see it as a burden, but as an ongoing opportunity for growth and connection. The joy of being able to communicate with people from different cultures, access information in its original language, and enjoy art and entertainment in English is a reward that keeps on giving. Let's also acknowledge that your needs and goals may change over time. The reasons you started learning English might evolve. Perhaps you initially learned for travel, but now you need it for a new job. Or maybe you learned for professional reasons, but now you want to enjoy English literature more deeply. Be flexible and adapt your learning focus to your current needs and aspirations. This will ensure that your English skills continue to serve you well in all aspects of your life. And importantly, don't compare your journey to others. Everyone learns at a different pace and has different strengths and weaknesses. Social media can sometimes create a false impression that everyone else is learning faster or speaking more perfectly. Focus on your own progress, your own goals, and your own enjoyment of the process. Your English learning journey is unique to you. Think about how you can create an English bubble around yourself, even if you don't live in an English-speaking country. Change the language settings on your phone, computer, and social media apps to English. Listen to English radio or news while you're doing chores. Label items around your house in English. Make your shopping lists in English. These small, consistent exposures help to keep English at the forefront of your mind and make it feel like a more natural part of your environment. Consider the role of humor in language learning. Being able to understand and even use humor in English is a significant milestone and can make interactions much more enjoyable. Pay attention to jokes, puns, and sarcasm in English media. Don't be afraid to try to make a lighthearted comment or joke yourself, even if it doesn't land perfectly. Laughter is a universal connector, and sharing a laugh in English can be a great confidence booster. Furthermore, practice explaining complex ideas. Simply, this is a skill that benefits you not just in English, but in any language. If you can take a complicated topic, perhaps from your work, your studies, or a hobby, and explain it in clear, simple English, it shows a deep understanding of both the subject matter and the language. This is excellent practice for clarity and conciseness. Try explaining something complex to a friend who knows less about it, or even just to yourself out loud. And as your skills grow, don't lose sight of why you started. Reconnect with your initial motivations. Was it to connect with more people, to advance your career, to access new knowledge, to enjoy travel more fully? Reminding yourself of your why can provide renewed energy and focus, especially if you hit a plateau or feel your motivation waning. Your initial spark is a powerful fuel. Finally, always remember that speaking English confidently and clearly is not about achieving some mythical state of perfection. It's about effective communication. It's about connection. It's about being able to express your thoughts, feelings, and ideas to others and to understand them in return. Every word you speak, every conversation you have, every effort you make is a step towards that goal. It's a skill built brick by brick, conversation by conversation. Embrace the process, be kind to yourself, and enjoy the incredible journey of mastering this global language. The ability to communicate across linguistic and cultural divides is a powerful and enriching one. And your dedication to this path will open up countless new doors and opportunities.